In the previous video, we used apples to think about how real numbers came to be. But drawing apples can easily become cumbersome. So in this video, we discuss a useful way of thinking about real numbers without resorting to apples. The first step is to replace the apples with ticks. The distance between the ticks are made proportional to the difference between the corresponding numbers. For example, the distance between 2 and 1 must be the same as the distance between 3 and 2, because both differences are 1. And the distance between 1 and 3 must be twice that. We also make sure that the larger numbers are to the right and the smaller numbers are to the left. For example, because 100 is greater than 3, it will be to the right of 3. 0 and negative numbers are less than 1, so they will be situated to the left of 1. The next step is to draw the fractions. For example, because 1/2 is between 0 and 1, we draw it between those ticks. 3/2 is between 1 and 2. And we do this for all rational numbers, and we will see that an almost continuous line emerges. It can be shown that the holes in the line can be filled by irrational numbers, and therefore the set of all real numbers can be represented by a line, and we call this line the number line. Sometimes we only want to think about a portion of the number line. For example, we can talk about all numbers greater than 3. We can write this as an arrow pointing to the right. The arrow begins at the tick of the number 3. We leave an open circle to indicate that 3 is not part of the set. We can also write this using parentheses. In the same manner, if we talk about the numbers up to -100, we represent it this way. Or, if we talk about the entire number line, we write it this way. If we want to include the endpoints, we simply replace the hollow circles with solid circles. We also replace the parentheses with square brackets. We can also talk about numbers in between. For example, all numbers between 0 and 1 and including 0 and 1 can be written in this way. And if we exclude both ends, we write it this way. We can also include only one endpoint. We write it this way. The rule in writing is simply to use square brackets and closed circles when an endpoint is included in the set, and to use open circles and parentheses if the endpoints are not included. These segments of the number line, they are called intervals. If all endpoints are open, we call it an open interval. Otherwise, we call it a closed interval. We have learned from this video that a more convenient way of representing numbers is by using a number line. It contains all rational and irrational numbers. We learned a way to write and talk about smaller portions of the number line. We call these portions intervals. Some intervals contain at least one boundary at the endpoint. We call them closed intervals. Those intervals that did not contain any boundary or endpoints are called open intervals. In the next video, we will talk about a fundamental and very important assumption that we make about the number line that is very useful in calculus.